Let's dive into the fascinating world of labyrinth creations with the MazeGen Blender Add-on, a sophisticated and user-friendly tool designed to streamline the design and visualization process of mazes. This powerful add-on streamlines the maze generation process, transforming it into an intuitive and creative journey. Whether you're a 3D artist, game developer, or a hobbyist fascinated by the intricate pathways of mazes, MazeGen provides an array of features to help bring your visions to life. At its core, MazeGen is engineered to automate the intricate process of maze generation, delivering control and flexibility in crafting the layout. With just a few clicks, you can generate sprawling mazes tailored to your specifications, adjusting the size and complexity with ease. The tool is not just about the creation of mazes. It's an artistic gateway, offering various ways to enhance the visual appeal of your labyrinth. From implementing diverse animation effects for motion graphics to fine-tuning the details of your design, MazeGen caters to a spectrum of creative needs. Generate Maze. This is the primary button that will initiate the maze generator operation. The size of the maze will be determined by the X and Y size input fields. Please note only odd numbers such as 3, 5, 7, and so forth are permitted. Even numbers such as 2, 4, 6, and so forth are not permitted. If you enter an even number, it will be automatically adjusted to the next odd number. You can create a maze with none-square ratio, for example, using a size of 21 by 37. If you're unhappy with the result, you can simply click the Generate Maze button again for a new maze. Please note, it's important to be aware that the pathfinding process involved in calculating the maze is a CPU-intensive process. This can take several minutes to complete depending on the maze size. In addition, Blender will be unresponsive during this time. This is normal, so please be patient while the operation is in process. When complete, a grid of tiles will appear at the 0 world position, respecting the X and Y size. It's important to note, due to the complexity of the operation, the larger the X and Y values are, the longer the process will take. The processing time is exponential. A maze of 81 by 81 tiles would take 16 times longer to generate than a maze of 21 by 21 tiles. Typically, a maze of 21 by 21 tiles will take 30 to 60 seconds, depending on the CPU. A maze of 41 by 41 can take a few minutes, while a maze of 91 by 91 could take up to 2 hours to generate. If you have the patience, it will perform the task as expected. If you want a maze that is large in size, for example, over 61 by 61, I recommend generating 2 mazes, flipping several wall tiles to ensure there's a bridge, and simply repositioning the 2 mazes together manually. This would also involve baking the mazes from instances to unique objects. Generate and delete guide. When the maze has been generated, you can test the maze by generating a guide. This will draw a red guide through the shortest route of the maze. If a guide is available within the scene, there is also a guide growth value that can be animated from 0 to 100%. Delete maze and purge. If you wish to delete the maze, please use the Delete Maze button. This will delete the maze and all associated collections created by the maze generator. If you delete the maze, you should also press the Purge button to completely delete the generated assets. Tile management. Once the maze is generated, you may wish to inspect the maze for quality of the path. Given this process is using a random approach to generating the maze, some results may provide more challenging paths than others. To make the maze more interesting, you can manually select the tiles and flip them between walls and paths. Green tiles represent the paths, while white tiles represent the walls. I would typically begin by going through and opening wall sections by flipping the walls to path tiles at points where the path feels too straight and linear. Equally, you can close paths by flipping them into walls. It's a good idea to frequently check the route by generating a guide. The guide will change to reflect the new quickest route. Ensure you don't accidentally create a path that has no complete route, as this will fail to produce a guide. Additionally, you can also select a tile and reassign the start and end positions, which the guide will also respect. Converting to mesh. If you merge the walls and paths into a single geometry, then you can use the extrude buttons to extrude the respective wall or path. Note the wall or path element must be selected. Typically, you would only need to extrude the wall element. However, you might wish to extrude the path element too to add thickness. You can also automatically unwrap by elements using the respective unwrap wall and unwrap path buttons. Instancing tools. The instance tools are the main intended approach for visualizing the maze. The concept is simple. The maze generates tiles. Those tiles are placeholders for instances. You can use one of the provided pre-made wall and path assets, or you can create your own to use as a master object for generating instances. Note if you wish to create your own assets, each asset should conform to the X and Y size of one square Blender unit, which is the size of the generated tiles. Instancing is a widely used technique in 3D modeling and rendering that significantly reduces memory usage. In essence, it involves creating multiple instances of a single object. Unlike duplicating an object in the traditional sense, where each copy is independently loaded into memory, instancing allows for the creation of numerous replicas without the additional memory overhead. This is achieved by referencing a single, original object. As a result, each instance appears as a separate entity in the scene, but under the hood, they all share the same underlying data of the original. This efficient approach enables the visualization of thousands of objects while only storing the core data of one object, thereby conservatively utilizing system resources. Once you have your wall and path objects, you then add them to the instance list. Beneath the instance list, you will see two buttons, Add Wall and Add Path. Simply select the respective objects and click the appropriate button to add them to the list. You can select multiple objects. For example, you can select several unique wall objects and several unique path objects. Once the list is populated with wall and path objects, you then need to click the respective button beneath called Instance Wall and Instance Path. This will randomly replace each of the tiles in the maze with an instance of the respective wall or tile objects in the list. Please note that the tiles are not deleted, they are simply hidden to ensure they can be reverted later if needed. If you wish to return to the tiles and remove the walls and path instances, simply click the respective Revert Wall or Revert Path button. You can remove objects from the instance list by clicking the button called Remove Reference. Cycle Origin. This operation will allow you to effortlessly cycle the origin of an object through 3 different positions: the top, middle, and bottom. This is useful for quickly establishing the origin into the appropriate place for the wall and path objects prior to initiating the instances. Replace Instance. The Replace Instance button allows you to easily replace selected instances with instances from a different object. Simply add a new object to the instance list, or use an existing object in the list. Next, select the instances you wish to replace and then click the Replace Instances button. This will replace all selected instances with the new instances. Bake Instances. You might wish to bake the instances back to unique objects if you wish to use the maze in such ways outside the maze generator workflow. You can do this first, selecting the objects you wish to bake, and then using the Bake Instances button. Please note, this can take time depending on the amount of instances in the scene. Please be patient while the process finishes. Note: once the instances are converted to unique objects, they will no longer work within the instancing framework, so please ensure you understand the commitment of baking prior to proceeding with the operation. Another point to note: when all objects are unique, this will no longer take advantage of the native Blender instancing features. Subsequently, all objects will be loaded into memory, which can significantly slow down the Blender scene if the hardware is not sufficient. Add and remove base. Sometimes, when generating the instances, you might notice gaps between the objects that reveal the empty space beneath. A simple solution to hiding these gaps can be to adjust the scale of the instances or add a base beneath the whole maze using the Add Base button. Flip objects. The Flip Objects tools allow you to flip instances in varying ways, such as vertical on the X and Y axis or randomly in the X and Y axis. Simply use the Select Walls or Select Paths button and then use the desired flip operation. Instance selection. Here, you will see 3 buttons: Select Walls, Select Paths, and Select by Reference. If you wish to use many of the tools throughout the panel that affect the instances, you will first need to select the desired instances. These 3 buttons aim to simplify the process of selecting multiple objects by wall, path, or reference object. Once you have them selected, you can then proceed to apply the next operation, such as flip, bake, rotation, and so forth. Rotation. The rotation options allow you to rotate the objects in varying ways. Please ensure you first select the objects you wish to rotate. Note the values are based on degrees. Random translation and scale. These options allow you to translate and scale the instances. Please ensure you select the objects first. Also note, small values typically work best. The values are relative to 1 Blender unit, so a translation value of 1.0 will move the instances 1 Blender unit. Decoration tools. This area contains tools relating to decoration. The first tool, Add Lights to Corners, goes through the maze and adds point lights to every corner in the maze. Beneath you will see options for adjusting the light color and intensity. Note these values affect all generated lights when making adjustments. Experimental. This panel is an area for varying experimental tools and operations. Currently, you will see varying operators for automating various animated effects, such as waves, ripples, and other animated effects. Please note if you use these animation tools, they will assign animation to all instances in the maze. You will also see a button called Clear Animation. If you wish to remove the animation, please do so from the first frame. Thank you for watching this extensive introduction to the MazeGen Blender add-on.